I show 9:30.
Okay, let me, good morning. I'm calling to order the regular board meeting of the Western Municipal Water District Board of Directors at 9:30. And may we have a roll call, please?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Gardner,
I am here.
Director Torres, Director Denstedt, Director Risby, President Roten.
I am here.
President
morning.
Roten, you do not have a quorum this morning. May I suggest that we adjourn the meeting until tomorrow, July 3rd at 9:30 a.m.?
Absolutely, and while we're here, I'd still like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, any public comments, and the reports.
Fine, that works.
Okay, so I'd invite Elena Rodriguez to the podium. Executive Assistant, Management Administrative Services Department, and she is going to lead us in the pledge today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I can, yes. Thank you for having me this morning. I've been with the district almost 3 years now, and I provide support to Sarah and to Rick.
All right, thank you.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ms. Ford, did we have any public comments this morning?
We do not.
Okay, so we will move on down to reports. Item 8, General Counsel. Do you have a report?
Thank you, President Roden, Director Gardner. I have a brief report. You may have heard that there were some new bills passed and signed by Governor Newsom, AB 130 and SB 131 pertaining to CEQA. We will have a more detailed memo for the board that I'll send to Tammy and she can circulate to you guys from BBK on this, but the general thrust of it is that there are some new exemptions for certain projects that are now and signed into law for CEQA. The primary thrust of it was housing. The governor wanted to prioritize that and clearing out some of the regulatory and environmental requirements for infill housing in your cities, places already designated and permitted for apartments and that kind of thing in some of our urban centers. But there is another carve out for in SB 131 for water infrastructure. So that could potentially be something that districts like Western could use to streamline some of its projects on the CEQA end. Exciting times, I think, maybe a recognition by the state that CEQA had become maybe a weapon instead of, maybe what it was intended to do or envisioned to do back when it was adopted in the 70s. So a good thing for us, I believe, and one that I think, can use advantageously for our projects. And so we'll be having some more people much smarter than me will opine on this, and I will send it to you guys via Tammy and Craig. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report. And Mr. General Manager.
Thank you. Been a busy week in Sacramento for me. I was up at the Assembly Water Parks and Wildlife yesterday. I testified with Senator Caballero. It went very well. We actually were told in the morning that they were going to recommend one very minor amendment to the bill, which actually prioritized any changes in the water code. It prioritized our bill ahead of anyone else that would make any changes to the water code, which I thought was really, really good. But then when we got to the hearing, they said, no, legal counsel has advised us that we don't need that amendment, we're fine. So we testified. It was really rewarding to see the turnout of our supporters. I don't know how many stood up at the microphone and basically said that they're in support of the bill, but I don't know, 40, 50,
Wow.
I don't know. It was a lot. It was a line out the door. So that was great. The opposition spoke. There was one person from Mono Lake Committee who spoke and, I don't know, said he didn't think a plan for water is important, and we got to be really careful because we might overbuild infrastructure, so we shouldn't do this. He didn't get any. There were two people who stood up as a Me Too for that, two other environmental groups, but I liked our 50 as opposed to their two. Great comments out of the committee talking about how important it is. We got questions about the $14.5 billion cost of inaction, so we're getting some traction with the report that the UCs did. Question from one member about, why did the governor veto it last year and how are we going to prevent that from happening this year? So that was kind of nice. Senator Caballero handled that question. So it went really well. We ended up with a 12-0 vote, so unanimous out of the committee. So that was really good. On to appropriations next, and then the assembly floor. And since we haven't taken any amendments, I don't believe we have to go back to the Senate side like we had to last year, because we did take an amendment. Last year, we haven't done that. There hasn't been any proposed amendments along our journey so far, so that's really good. I also went up the week before to kind of prepare for not just this hearing, but also for the budget trailer bill to kind of add the same sort of CEQA project efficiencies, process efficiencies for the Delta Conveyance project. The water industry was trying really hard to push that through the governor's trailer bill. Unfortunately, the governor kind of chose to leverage the housing issue with the budget instead of the Delta Conveyance project. So that was kind of the tool to get these housing bills through. So they've kind of parked the budget trailer bills for Delta Conveyance. They said they're going to try later in the session to try and make changes. So we'll see how that goes. But in order to talk about both those things, we met with Speaker Rivas's office, Assemblymember Castillo, Gianna from Senator Caballero's office coordinating our talking points for yesterday. We met with Pappin's office. She's the chair of Water Parks and Wildlife. We met with the committee consultant who does the write-ups. He told us last week, I don't see any amendments coming. I've reviewed this before. I like the bill. He said, I think we really do need aspirational targets in the water plan. So our committee consultant's on our side, which actually is a big movement from where it was when we started 3 years ago on this. Remember, they weren't even gonna bring our bill to the committee 3 years ago. And remember, we had to take a year off, and then there was a change on the committee leadership, and now Assemblymember Pappin likes the bill. And so she said, oh yeah, we're going forward. She made great comments yesterday. Met with Assemblymember Jackson's office, Senator Ciatra's office, and we had, the reason for really having the meeting was we met with the governor's office, and Carla Nemeth was there, along with two other staff members, advisory staff members for the governor, talking about our bill. And they had some policy questions. They were concerned about, well, who would be responsible for meeting the targets? If we set these targets, is it the governor's responsibility to make sure they're met? And what happens if they aren't? And so we said, no, they're aspirational targets. The bill says we have to have a plan. And so we're not going to have all the projects built by 2040. These are going to be 30-year projects. So we're not going to have 9 million acre feet built by 2040. But we need a plan to do that. Yeah. And so so I said, I don't know, the responsibility is to get the plan done, and that's DWR's responsibility, not any politician. Just please approve it. So it was a really good meeting, but Brady from the governor's office did again emphasize that it's a bad budget year. We'll see what happens. So they're kind of holding up that card to us. So I don't know. It was good to have him say that early in the process. KP was there, Ed was there with us, and it's good to hear. now we know what to work on until September, October, whenever it gets to his desk. So, not the most encouraging meeting, but also not over insurmountable. So, other things. We had a fire up in Gavilan on Monday afternoon. Monday at about noon, it broke out. Ops was very engaged with fire, topped off tanks, got as prepared as we could. All our facilities were out of danger. Fire was kind of burning away from our stuff. It's, I don't know, what is it, 80, 90% controlled now? We did wake up Monday morning to a nice kind of campfire aroma to the whole area in the region. We had it in the office. Our air conditioning actually worked to clear that out after a little while, but we had a little bit of a smoky start to the day on Monday, just highlighting it as that season again.
It's always that season.
It is kind of getting that way,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not windy and it's not really as hot as it gets here.
Right?
But for some reason, this weekend, there were a couple different fires, and then one on Monday. CAL FIRE and the Air Forces were hitting that fire really hard to get it under control. And we've talked a lot about coming back to the board with a heli hydrant presentation. Well, we had unofficial heli hydrants. They were dipping into Altman Nursery's ponds to get all their water to go
okay.
fight the fire. So it was right there in the middle of where all the action was. In August, we are coming back to the EOWR with a presentation on heli hydrants. Other recent activities, we had a meeting on the 19th, 2 meetings out at Eastern, one for the Southwest Riverside County Water Alliance. Don Ortega was out here from Metropolitan talking about Camp for Water, and he was very curious about what the Water Alliance was doing. So we met with him, with all of the Alliance members, before his presentation on Camp for Water over lunch at Eastern. Then we all stuck around for the meeting, which I thought was very, very interesting to hear his perspective on Camp for Water and some other big picture issues on statewide water issues. CMUA Executive Committee, when I was up in Sacramento, I also met with General Manager from the State Water Project Contractors, Jennifer Pierre. Had dinner with her and Ed Manning and our team. That was really interesting to hear the updates on what's happening with the contractors. They were all in on Delta Conveyance trailer bill language, and she was really pushing hard, Jennifer, to get that done. She and I have been contacting each other back and forth over the last couple of months to kind of coordinate support from down here, and she's trying to coordinate statewide support. So she was really happy about our call to action, and Michael and Sarah and the team. And we reached out to our network that's been supporting us on all these issues, and they really responded well. And we had a lot of our support letter was huge. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in the governor's trailer bill
Yeah.
yet. And he has his own tactics to get things done. So
Yeah.
we'll keep pushing. We had a meeting with Met's Water Resources team here last week. We're still pushing some other creative storage options. So you hear Met talk about, well, we got to, in the camp process, we got to, figure out storage and priority of storage and who's going to pay for it. I don't think that conversation is where it needs to be. So we've been really trying to push with Met's Water Resources staff and our staff to come up with some more creative ideas on how do we collaborate with SARCUP and Metropolitan. Are there opportunities in San Bernardino Basin with Metropolitan? Are there other storage opportunities like a west side reservoir, west side of Met's service area? We call it kind of Diamond Valley West. And how do we push that harder? It makes a lot of sense, and it's a lot cheaper than some of the alternatives that Met's looking at in their capital program. So we're really pushing that with their water resources staff. We attended the MODOC Water Policy Forum. Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security was there on Thursday night. It was an interesting conversation. Then Met managers meeting Friday, talking about status of the Colorado River Basin negotiations, talked about State Water Project subsidence and the efforts and the cost to fix subsidence. We continue to move water through the canals as they subside. It's getting harder and harder to push water. It's ultimately could be a $3 billion cost to restore those canals to their original condition. A Band-Aid cost of, I think it was $27 million, something like that, to kind of build up the sides a little bit. But a big issue, and we're seeking federal funding and state funding to do that.
And
Started
I'm
the
sorry,
conver-
which meeting was that?
That was
talked about?
the Metropolitan Member Agency Managers Meeting that happens
manager.
once a month.
Oh,
It's for the general managers, but I don't know. I couldn't see I was there in person. There's a lot of people on Zoom. It's usually 100 people. Yeah,
wow.
that are on that trying to listen. It's all the staff. And, well, it's actually, if you go through the list, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of non-Met people that are listening into those meetings. We got our first update in that meeting on the upcoming budget. You know, like what are going to be the drivers for the budget? So that was interesting. They're highlighting a few projects that they have to figure out. Do we put these in the budget or not? I was pretty active on voicing my opinion on what should be in there and what really, I don't know why we would put it in there. We're not ready for that. Why should my customers start paying costs for Delta conveyance? We're not there yet. More importantly, pure water. Board hasn't taken a position yet. They're talking about putting the construction cost for pure water in the budget. I'm like, what? We can't pay for that yet. It's not even approved. So it's really interesting. But this was the first rollout. You know, I think they're testing the waters to see how we react. So we reacted. And then talking about Camp for Water implementation and basically how they're going to start using that Camp for Water project scoring process for some projects. And I wasn't a big fan of the presentation. They talked a lot about scoring in these individual projects: pure water, Delta conveyance, sites reservoir, and turf rebate, right? So those are the four they're going to score in Camp for Water. And I was trying to remind them that in the camp process, we said, no, we should be scoring portfolios of projects, not individual projects. Because if you score a turf replacement project, that doesn't do anything for all the other water supply needs that we still need to work on. So what good is scoring that project by itself? So, I don't know, we keep voicing our opinion, we'll see. Oh, and they did talk about, zero emission vehicles, and purchasing those is gonna be a budget driver for them, which, I don't know, we'll see. So, anyway, very active, lots going on in the last 2 weeks, as always, but great news yesterday on the bill, and supporters are very engaged, and it's looking good, looking really good. Upcoming items, I'll report more on this later, but we're kicking off the next phase of the San Bernardino Basin Optimization Program. So we're funding part of this study. We're splitting it with Valley District. So we're to phase 2, so we're kicking that off again. So looking forward to that. A lot of work by staff, those two out there are doing a great job.
A lot of finger pointing happening.
Yeah, it's a big team.
In a good way.
Yeah, it's a team. And it can be transformational for the basin, but there's, it's hard to move people in groundwater management. Everyone likes to hang on to their rights and hang on to what they're used to doing, so change is difficult. So we'll see how that all goes. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, did you have any, Mike?
I don't.
All right. I just think I had one I wrote down here. Oh, so the first week that you went to Sacramento, I know yesterday was for the, well, actually, this kind of is for both. Yesterday was for the testifying at the committee. So I'm very glad to hear there were that many supporters in the audience. Does anyone from Western go besides you up there for, and I know you were you testified, right?
I testified.
Yeah, so I understand that there's only like 2 people or whatever that can testify, and
Yeah, we
then-
had 3. Paul Helliker was another witness, but
Oh,
we don't
nice.
usually, I don't know. I don't know what the protocol is, but getting two witnesses besides the senator, it's her bill.
Yes.
So she has unlimited testimony.
Yes.
Paul Helliker and I both get 2 minutes each.
Right, okay. So-
But Michael goes.
Oh, Michael went,
And
okay.
helps coordinate, and then Sarah went and Michael both went last week.
The previous week.
Because we're really talking to a variety of people on a variety of different issues. So it's the bill, which Sarah plays a major part in the strategy of SB 72 and California Water for All, so she needs to be there for all those. And then
Okay.
Michael is there for all of our legislative meetings, because he's coordinating all those meetings, and, they're generating the talking points and, helping with the discussions all the
Oh,
way
yeah.
along.
Yeah, and they have all those details up here.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that I have other people there with me to, this is succession planning too, right? If I do it all by myself, what happens when I can't go?
Yeah,
I want to make sure our team is really good at this. And, I'm trusting that Michael and Sarah are working behind the scenes, and we have unified messaging, because I can't be on all the calls they're on to set all these meetings up. And, Michael's doing all the work with the staffs. So
Yeah.
there's a huge amount of staff coordination, staff to staff, between all the different offices and Michael. And so it's really valuable to have a group effort up there.
yeah. No, and I
But the-
totally
you know,
agree.
And we like to bring our elected board when we're talking with the members, but I kind of made a judgment this time that we weren't sure we were getting the members, so I didn't think it was
Okay.
worth, getting one of our board members to spend an entire day traveling up. As it turned out, we ended up with 3 members. We missed one. Senator Gonzalez. Assemblymember Gonzalez was new. And he is from like the Salton Sea area. So he's not one of our members, but he is on Water Parks and Wildlife Committee. He's the
Oh.
vice chair. And so we said we should talk to the vice chair's
gosh,
staff.
yes,
So we met with
yes.
the staff, and then he walked in halfway through the meeting.
Nice.
And he's going to be a really important member for our board to get to know. He's very motivated on water issues.
Good.
And told us that he would like to be looked at as the water expert in the assembly. How do I build my water knowledge and my credibility to be that? I'm like, well, being on Water Parks and Wildlife and being the vice chair is a really good start. And
Yeah.
so I think there'll be a lot more interaction with him.
Okay. And actually, you kind of gave me a little segue as to what I was going to ask about was, I'd like us to consider, and, this something doesn't have to happen at a meeting, sending board members or a board member, and it doesn't have to be the president, the vice president can be, whoever. I know some of these are like short notice appointments, and so depending on people's schedules, but I just think it would be, it would show good support from the board, whether we're meeting with legislators or even being in the audience and being able, like, for the committee hearing yesterday, being able to just, go up in that line and say, in support, whatever, like that. So if we could maybe just consider that when appropriate, it might not be every single time,
Yeah.
but I just think it's important
Yeah, we've,
to show that
and,
face.
I always want to make sure that we have meetings and it's not a waste of time.
Yeah,
Last week when we went up, the main driver for the meeting was to meet with the governor's office. And then I asked Michael to throw together as many meetings he could around that, as
Yeah.
long as we're up there.
while we're up here.
And literally, we started a couple days before that with one meeting in addition to the governor's office, but by the time we got there on Tuesday morning, we had numerous meetings all set up, so
Yeah.
it was last minute, we threw it together, and it was like, as long as we're walking the hall. And the lobbyists, they'll do that too, they're like, well, let's just poke our head in and say
Yeah.
hi. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, how many board members do I want to drag up there to poke a head in and
Yeah.
say hello? We do, I've kind of focused more on like when we have like CMUA Ledge Day, it's
Right.
more organized. I know
I think
you've been up there
Fa-
before.
And Fazia, I think.
Fazia went this
And
last
I
year.
think I was up there, but with
Yeah.
a different group.
Yeah, exactly. You were up there with another group, same day.
Yeah.
But we have CSDA Ledge Days, we have Aqua Ledge Days. CMUA is probably gonna have more. I'm really pushing in my role at CMUA to have more water education for new legislators, so we're trying to figure out how to set that up. So we'll certainly be calling on electeds to participate in that.
Okay.
But yeah, when we have, I don't know, I just don't wanna waste your time.
All right. Well, just so you know, for me personally, I wouldn't consider it a waste of
Okay.
time. Because sometimes you just don't know. Like you're up there for one thing and then another door opens that you get to stop in and see somebody. And then two, it's just visibility of our board, a board member being there to show that support. So I guess part of this goes back to my early experience with Harupa Valley and when we were trying year after year to get our bill through to restore the funding to the 4 new cities. And there were a couple of times that I actually got to testify with Stan Sniff had gone up at that time, he was sheriff. And so he and I testified at least before one committee. And then there were other times where we would have city council representation from maybe not all 4 cities that were affected, but for sure Wildemar was a very active participant, Harupa Valley, sometimes Menifee. And they would send 1 or 2 or 3 folks so that we could have that visual presence. So the legislature knew you're affecting people down here, you know, with your decision to steal our funds. And that's what it was, so I'll call it what it is. So it kind of got me to thinking that I don't think it would be a bad idea to have a board member, maybe not every single time, especially knowing that some of these come up so quickly, but the committee hearing, and I didn't really even think about it when you were saying, oh yeah, the committee hearing's next week and I'll be up there, and just didn't, I don't know if it didn't sink in or what, but after
Well, it's
thinking
not-
about it a bit.
I don't think, after being there, there weren't any electeds there. It's really a stream of lobbyists that
Yeah.
are all there doing all the Me Too's.
Yeah,
So,
but
but it is
when
kind of
you're-
interesting to listen and sit in there and listen and.
Yeah, and when you're on that committee hearing and you're like, okay, lobbyists, you know, these people are paid to be here, that kind of thing, and they do wonderful work. I completely reversed my opinion of lobbyists after going through the experience with Harupa Valley. I mean, I went from, oh, lobbyists is a bad word, to, oh my goodness, we can't do this without them.
Yeah.
They're amazing. But I think sometimes it might even jog those members to hear, oh, okay, this is an elected representative that came up, and they are the direct link to the people that they're representing. So just a thought for discussion. And
Thank you.
If I can, let me ask Michael a question here. It used to be that particularly if you had a hearing with lots of testimony, 2 representatives of the same organization were not permitted to speak. Even
Correct.
to say "me too."
Right.
oh, not even to agree.
No, you might get to raise your hand from
Yeah.
the audience, but generally, the practice was, and I think still is, any one entity gets 1 person to speak.
There are some groups that do occasionally try and push that boundary, and they'll get a busload of people and, you know, Save the Delta or whatever
Yeah.
will come up and try and do that. But it's, in the committee hearing process, they try and minimize that, and it's pretty frowned upon to do
It
something
it
like
can
that.
actually
so
work against you.
It definitely can.
So I
But if
think
we
need
happen to
be
have,
careful. There are times when it's great to have an elected.
Yeah.
Elected to elected is a plus. But you don't, especially with the legislature, you don't always have an opportunity for two representatives from the same organization to speak. And I don't think any of us are as prepared and able to speak on things like SB 72
Yeah.
as Craig is.
Oh, no, I agree, and I wasn't trying
Yeah.
to
No,
suggest
I
that
didn't
any of
think.
us should have been the one
Yeah.
testifying. No, at least not myself.
But for meetings with electeds or with staff, I think that can be a plus if we have an elected tagging
Yeah.
along.
Yeah. I agree.
makes sense. Yeah.
And we are, I think we need to take better, or make better use of when they're in region.
Yes.
Got
also.
you.
We're pitching that. We offered
We do.
tours while we were going around.
Yeah.
We're trying to get
They're
them
getting
here.
lots of pitches, but
Yeah.
we try. We do
It's
try.
hard- it's
when
hard to
they're-
land
especially
them.
the summertime. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what happens. But
Water is
we
good
do.
in the summer, though.
Water's good. That's right. It certainly is. But yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind. We also keep in mind with these meetings the ratio of Western people / lobbyists to staff. Like if we're meeting with one staff member at an office and we have 4 Western staff, well, 3 Western staff, an elected, and 2 lobbyists, it's kind of like a little overwhelming for the staff. So we also take that into account when we're planning these trips too. But definitely happy to do that moving forward, and we'll coordinate with Craig on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify whether the
Sure.
opportunity for 2 people to
Yeah.
speak.
I would say especially if it's a loaded hearing and there's a controversial bill and people try and do that, they'll cut you off. So it just depends upon the committee and the chair and all that stuff, but generally frowned upon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'm finished.
all righty. Let's see, we'll move on to director's comments and requests. Mike, do you have a SAPA
Yes,
report today?
I do. SAPA met yesterday, and we bumped the salary for the interim general manager approximately 5%. It's a tiny fraction over 5%, but, and increased her car allowance from $750 a month to $1,000, which is what the executive director was getting, and she'll be doing the driving that he did, so that was appropriate. That was a unanimous vote. And then we had a closed session to interview 3 firms as prospective providers of general counsel services, and voted unanimously to continue the firm that we currently are using, which is Lagerlof out of Pasadena. And that was it. It was a long meeting, because we did interview 3 firms. And then the PA 24 committee, which is the Brine Line, was scheduled to meet, but we lost our quorum. So actually, I sat in this chair yesterday and didn't have a
Yeah,
quorum.
the meeting was here.
Yeah, it was. So, that it did not meet, there was nothing critical on their agenda. That's it for SAPA.
Okay. Let's see, well, Brenda's not here. Chino Basin Water Master.
Water Master, I don't believe I reported on this. I don't think we've had a meeting since last time.
Yeah, no, you have a report on
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't,
The last meeting was, there were a couple of actions taken. The important one is they're looking at the safe yield for the Chino Basin. It has to be updated every 5 years. And preliminarily, the consultant is recommending a reduction of about 14,000 acre-feet a year, which all comes from the appropriators, the water utilities. And they're very concerned about that. The primary consultant that put this together has a model that is new and very complicated, It has not been really validated anywhere. So quite a few concerns were raised about how important or how accurate is that model. And so the commission said, well, let's go ahead and have a peer review of this modeling effort and the whole analysis of Safe Yield. So they selected a firm, our techies may recognize them, it's SS Papadopoulos, pretty well known in the field, and does not have a tie to any of the three pools, so they should be as neutral as you can get. To do the peer review, they're supposed to get it done so that the Watermaster Board can adopt the update of Safe Yield in September. I'm not sure that that will really happen. I think it may be more complicated. That's a date set by the court. The court can extend it and probably would. The judge he's taking some time off. Not sure, they have not announced what the issue is, whether there's an issue with the judge himself or somebody in his family.
Oh,
But he has taken some emergency time off, and won't be back until September.
oh,
So that's just kind of delaying things a little bit, but not really significantly. If it turns into a long-term issue, the presiding judge will appoint another judge to take over all the Watermaster stuff. So we'll see on that. The other issue, and no action has been taken yet, but there was an appeal of the local court decision on some costs of preparing documents for the Optimum Basin Management Plan. And the presiding judge ruled one way, or the assigned judge ruled one way, Judge Ochoa. That was appealed to the appellate court in Los Angeles. The appellate court sent quite a bit of it back to the trial court. And this really significant piece is that the judge said, you looked at environmental harm, but you didn't look at economic harm. And a couple of the parties had claimed that they were economically harmed by the way costs were spread. And the trial court said, you have to consider that. So it's gone back to Judge Ochoa, the local judge, to deal with that. And it's not clear how that's going to happen, but having to consider economic impacts is going to change a whole number of things. So there's concern at Watermaster, what does this mean? Clearly, if there's a change in Safe Yield, that's going to have an economic impact on some of the pumpers, because they'll have to buy state water instead of pump local water, or they may have to. So it kind of throws Watermaster in a bit of a state of flux until that gets resolved. The hope is all the parties will get together and come up with an agreement on a solution and present that to the judge and say, Your Honor, we think this fixes it. And I think the judge would appreciate that. So there's an effort to make that happen, but we'll see if it works. Watermaster is not known for cooperating internally on a consistent basis. So that's it for Watermaster.
okay. So I have a question which might be way too complicated to answer. The question is simple, but the answer
I don't
probably is not. So on the Safe Yield, the recommendation so far with West Yost, I guess, is 14, what is it, 14,000
Roughly 14,000
acre
acre foot
feet
annually reduction.
less. And so, in my layman's mind, I'm thinking, was that recommendation, I'm sure it's based on a bunch of stuff, but stuff, the official
Yes.
word. Is it because they feel like there's less water in the basin?
No, there's actually more water in the basin. And there may be more coming. So, but it's where in the basin the water is versus where it needs to get pumped.
Okay.
And there are rights that can't be touched to store water in the basin. You can't make somebody let you pump their water.
Oh, because it's owned by, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the overlying agricultural pool and the overlying non-agricultural pool have absolutely solid water rights. They can sell them, but you can't take them from them. So the way Chino Basin works is the ag pool and the non-ag pool get to pump all of their rights as much as they wish up to safe field, and anything that's left over, the other pumpers can pump, the servers of potable water.
Okay.
And so if there's a reduction in overall safe yield, it affects the amount that's available to the appropriative pool.
The leftover, okay. All right, well, thank you. for
Did I get that close
answer.
to right?
I-
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Director Garner, thank you. Tomorrow is CDA, and then the rest of the reports, the directors are not here to do that. So do we have any director comments?
Happy 4th of July. Don't start any fires.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, please don't start any fires, anyone.
Oh, I do have one comment. There is a new company that has come to Riverside. They're from New Zealand. They're called Omeo, and they manufacture electric trucks, basically. It might be worth our ops people taking them. I don't know. They're new here. I don't know what their warranties are. I don't know. Yeah. Well, no, it's manufactured here, so no.
Oh, good.
They're actually manufactured in Riverside. But, yeah, I don't know what their record is. So, it's OMIO.
Great, we'll look at it.
Okay,
We
thank
need
you.
more competition
Yeah,
in that.
Yes,
yes,
yeah. Any requests for future agenda items?
not for me.
No, me neither. And what are we doing with closed
So-
session?
We can't do it.
Yeah, well. So I wanted to touch base, I double checked it. I got it a little bit wrong. I don't know if it's material or not, but I figured I'd put it to you guys and staff to consider. We can do, on this agenda that we posted, we can do up to 5 calendar days, which actually puts Monday at 9:30 as the last possible moment in play. It also puts any time tomorrow, subject to availability of staff and the board. So I wanted to clarify that the 24-hour thing is for posting. It's not for, I got it a little bit mixed up.
Okay.
So I wanted to just clarify in case that is material to you guys in your calendars. I don't know if we want to open that back up. 9:30 seems to work, but I know that you guys had to move some stuff around, so figured I'd just put it to you. And yeah, for discussion.
If tomorrow morning works, I would recommend we leave it alone.
Yeah,
Just because we've got it set.
I agree. And
Okay.
you think that we will have quorum?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
we don't have to post anything, right?
We
Holland?
do, yeah, we do. We should
A
post today.
continuation till
Yeah,
tomorrow
yeah,
at
yeah,
9:30.
a notice of adjournment to
And
tomorrow.
we'll make sure that we have
We'll handle that,
more
yeah.
board members so
Okay.
that we have a meeting tomorrow and we'll get back to
If it
you.
doesn't work, just let us know.
We'll find a time.
If we don't, if we're not able to have a quorum tomorrow,
Okay. And then, and so just so I understand, so tomorrow we'll look at the consent calendar and the 3 action items
And
and the
closed
close,
session, yep.
and the closed session. Okay.
and Craig will be attending.
No, I'll be on an airplane. Tim will be there.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, okay, and then how do I
So you
adjourn
don't-
this in a special way?
No,
to
you can
tomorrow?
just, yeah, so in the same way that you would say adjourn to the next regular meeting on July 16th, you'll just say I'll adjourn this regular meeting to tomorrow at 9:30. But you don't need a motion or anything because we don't have a quorum.
Do we adjourn or do we continue?
Yeah, but same, yeah. Whatever word you want to use.
Okay. So with that, we will adjourn at 10:16 to our special meeting, right, tomorrow?
No, it's
No.
an adjourned regular meeting tomorrow.
To this,
Yeah.
okay, to this meeting tomorrow, July
Third.
3rd, thank you, at 9:30.
You got it.
I'm looking at this July 16th, I'm like, no, that isn't. Okay.
Thank you.